And these pivot. So if you want to
settings. we go. Are we good?
I'm just going to mute my computer since I can hear you. We don't get any count numbers outside of the room. The only members of the public that we have right now are Bill LaRose and Charlotte Thompson.
Okay.
So I think it's probably safe to mute the computers if you don't want feedback, but it will still record.
All right, so we were having some technical difficulties. I called the meeting to order at 7:06. It's the regular meeting of the Cedar Springs City Council for Thursday, July 9th, 2020, and it's now 7:09 p.m. Would you like to rise with me and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call the roll. Lisa Ashton. Here. Jerry Gross. Here. Molly Nixon. Here. Rose Towell. Here. Renee Race. Here. Mayor Hall. And Vice Mayor Pro Tem Pam Conley, I am here. I will entertain a motion to excuse Mayor Hall. I make a motion to excuse Mayor Hall. I second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Mayor Hall is excused. At this time, we move on to the public comments portion. The council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment and public hearing portions of the agenda. However, council policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the city manager for action. If after communicating with the city manager, no resolution is reached, the concern will be elevated to the mayor and eventually to the council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the council meeting that citizens are allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like a response. Wonderful, thank you.
Welcome you for our first city council meeting here in the library. And these are unusual days and circumstances, and it's nice that we can share it together, to be together. I'm so grateful in times of the pandemic and the things that are happening in our country and our communities in Michigan. We live in a small town, a great rural community that really cares about each other and works together. We had an example yesterday of your man out here was very compromised mentally and physically on this asphalt path. And within minutes of my really reporting it, we had like 9 men. We had safety groups here. They were taking care of him and helping him to get the help he needed. And I was so proud, of the kindness and the attention and the pretty seriousness. Great, because I'm so worried about it. But it's what we do. It's who we are. And I really love this town. I love all of you. I want you to know that it really matters to me. It didn't matter. Everything you do, every decision that you make, it matters. And this year, it's been really hard for me because some of the reading program is our signature program. Last year we had over 1,900 people sign up. This year we have under 500. And it's because everything is on the computer. We can't get together. We can't laugh together. We have programs together. We all are doing it. We're doing all we can. The Friends gave us $395 worth of new software so that we have registrations and parties and absolutely everything's online. And people can still get prizes. And the friends of the community have come together and given us prizes and money we're doing a lot more ourselves. And we're open. We were open a month ago for curbside, and then we added curbside and appointments. And then last week we added, we're open, limited, like we can have 22 people in here. And then, this week we're totally open. And there aren't that many people coming in really. I mean, people are still concerned that, right inside here we have the hand sanitizer, mask, and then people can shop. And then if they touch any books or open them and grab, there's a place to put the books. So we're really being careful and trying to do, what we can to keep people safe and we are safe ourselves. If one of us would get sick, we're all, mixing and sharing and passing in a shift, so we would have to close. So we're being, we're very cautious about that. Tomorrow, one of the big questions is when can we let this room be used? And tomorrow, the library law specialist and all the libraries in Michigan are getting together, which we do regularly, like almost weekly. And the library law specialist is going to be talking to us again about how that works. So we're really working together and, just trying to give the best value for our community and try to still work within guidelines that would keep us safe. Anyway, love you all.
I would give you a hug if I could.
You can just elbow me out, yeah.
Elbow you. The library is a huge, important piece of this community, and it's a lot of what's keeping people going. In our house, we have been checking out ebooks and audiobooks from the library all over the place since March, and it's what's keeping us going. So thank you for that. And I didn't even know there was a virtual summer reading program. So you will have at least 2 or 3 more participants after this night.
The school put the link out to it twice.
I believe you. Just,
But it's not reaching everyone.
but thank you, and I'm glad we can advertise that here. So virtual reading, summer reading program.
And one other thing, I want to give a shout out for our city manager, came on his own time and power washed around this library, but there's so much traffic and bird poop is nesting bird out here and was like really letting it go out here right in the entryway.
Thank you, City Manager Mike, for taking care of our library and the bird poop. But no, it's been a beautiful building, and thank you for letting us have our safer city council meeting here.
Well, it wasn't just me letting you let me rent this building all year long, so hey, have that in. It's yours.
It's been a wonderful addition, so thank you for that. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment? Hearing none, I will move on to the the adoption of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion? Okay, we don't have any I didn't see any public hearings. So would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda? Do I have a second? All those in favor of adopting the agenda? All those opposed? On the agenda? If you would like to. The adoption agenda is the overall structure in order of the things we're going to be discussing tonight.
My concern was the motion to approve the staff reports that were required.
On the consent agenda? Okay, so we'll be having that conversation. Do you want it removed, or?
I want to make sure that we have discussion about it, since I think it's the first time it's been before us.
It's in an action item. It's part of the dog park conversation.
It's the Wriggle Park.
Right. It was previously discussed as part of the dog park.
Yes.
Yeah, if I could, I think what Ms. Powell is asking is she wants the opportunity to table it at some point. She doesn't want to necessarily act on it.
Okay.
Which I think would be part of the
I was gonna say, at that point, then, you could make that motion during the action piece of it.
All right.
Does that,
Yeah, that's fine.
does that answer your question?
I just want to make sure we get into.
Yeah, does, and I'm saying, did I cover you? Okay, excellent. All right, any other questions about adopting the agenda? Then all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carries to adopt the agenda. We now move on to the consent agenda. Council members may request that any or all items be removed from the consent agenda. A motion is then in order to adopt all items not removed from the consent agenda. Requesting the removal of an item of the consent agenda is the prerogative afforded each council member and does not require the support of other council members. So before I ask for a motion, does anyone want something removed? All right.
I have nothing to remove, but I have a question on one item.
Okay.
Was, Ms. Ringler the only applicant to fill the open seat? So we did have two people contact us, and one person, after hearing the details of what may be required, indicated that while she would want to serve, she didn't feel like she had the ability to do so. Thank you.
And I spoke with Ms. Ringler on the phone, and she is a paralegal and has been a longstanding member of the community and has been very interested in getting involved and is a big advocate of the library. And I was very excited when talking to her and she is filling a term for a person who is leaving.
The question was not posed simply because I didn't think she was a good candidate. It was just I was wondering if we ever had any other applicants.
Yeah, but, and as
I've
I,
seen 3 or 4. But
sure. It's also to fill out the remainder of a term. It's not for the beginning of a term. So that might be part of why we had less applicants.
Could everybody make sure that when we talk, we try to unmute their computer? Sorry, I should have been on that.
Rose?
I see that, Paul Stark has resigned from the library board, and, Sam Gebhardt has resigned from DDA, and, in our packet, it said the city impact built a bridge. And I would like to see us get into the habit of sending a certificate of appreciation to folks that have served our city in some way or form.
So when they leave, you would like us to send
it or ask them to come in for a presentation, because we haven't done that very much in a long time, and I think it's
Yeah.
important.
we used to do it quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that.
Good.
Paul and Sam, City Impact, start getting letters of appreciation if that's possible.
I certainly have no problem sending letters of appreciation to board members. But, you know, there are so many wonderful things that happen in this community on a regular basis. It would be difficult for me to track down and send out letters of appreciation for everything. Part of the reason that I put the bridge thing on the agenda tonight was because I felt that that was a method of saying thank you. Because it's a great thing that they did, and I think it deserves acknowledgement. But then, you know, I'm struggling right now as it is without a city clerk, all the stuff I have going on my plate. So it would just be difficult for me to put pen to paper on a regular basis for stuff that, you know, extra stuff.
Well, these were like, pre-printed, documents.
They used to be for anybody that had served on a board or committee, organization type thing. So if someone served for the library board, someone served for that, when they would leave, we would send them a certificate of thank you for your service.
Well, then that sounds like a job for the deputy city clerk to look into for me.
That would be wonderful. And usually it's only done when someone leaves the board.
Sure. Like I said, I have no issue with that. It was more the bridge type stuff. There's just so much of that. It's hard to.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that do a lot of really wonderful volunteer things. Okay, other questions, concerns, discussion about the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor of adopting the consent agenda? All those opposed say no. Motion carries. We're moving on to action items. Motion to approve Skinner Field lease as presented. And would Mr. Sure. For the consent agenda? Okay, I thought Rose had done it before, but that's cool. We got it? Okay, excellent. Are we on to action items? Do you want another vote on the consent agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Moving on to action item. Motion to approve Skinner Field lease as presented. And are you the president?
Yes.
Of Skinner Field? Would you like to speak to us before we have a motion?
Well, just to clarify what you have in front of you term-wise, as far as the length of it. I had sent an email, city manager seemed to think that it was at a 1-year term, and I had asked for 10, the previous one was 5, so I was just wondering what term you guys have.
So the term that was approved of by council previously was a 1-year term, which is what was written in there. And I understand that Mr. Cooper is asking for a 10-year term. The previous term was 5 years. At first, this is just me with my legal brain not liking the previous agreement, which is why it was changed. But I would hate to tie the hands of future city managers or councils to have to wait 10 years for something like this to expire. I'm comfortable with the 5-year. Council would like to go back to that. I just think 10's a bit long. And I don't know, Mr. Kippart, maybe you can explain what benefit there might be to a 10-year to the organization versus say a 5.
Say that I'm okay with the 5-year term too. With the 1-year, our plans, when it came to fundraising things that they do, sponsorships, giving discounts for longer periods of time, compared to do that anymore. Promise somebody a 3-year term on something only have 5 years. So the 5-year, 10-year was more so that we could set our sights on larger, more expensive projects. The fundraising, things like resurfacing, rebuilding. We could have done it in 5, so we hope so. But with 10 years, that we could certainly set our sights on $50,000 fundraisers and things like that. It's not much, but the 5-year, 10-year, I understand about how councils are proposing things, but it all comes down to the fundraisings and the projects.
And for a third provision, then like every day, and
Ms. Atchison? We can. I just wanted to make sure we understood what I was allowing presentation and just, absolutely. So would someone like to make a motion? I would second that.
Allowing the sale of alcohol if okay by the city.
There was a stuff, the original 5-year lease, I think allowed for that if we came to the city for a separate permit. Gary, I remember said, don't bother coming. And we never did. And we don't have any plans to try to sell alcohol. It's not something I inserted. Yeah,
First and foremost, it's a youth sports
complex.
where it's appropriate to have that happen. So,
yeah, it was in the original contract. I don't see it as any problem because it's no different from what the city council does for the Red Flannel Festival on city property. And, even though their primary goal out there is youth football, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to have some kind of other adult-oriented type, thing. It's just something they regularly do. And they'd have to get city council.
we would have to come to you to
have to come to you to, you know, if there were to be a concert, somebody wants, I mean, Skinner itself would never do that, but they're one for some year, but somebody might, I think I will.
And we're clear then that the time frame is? That was my question.
I have,
We would like to rebuild, we would like to rebuild the tower. Those are 50.
I just want to clarify that Ms. Atkinson, that that's what you intended was for a 10-year lease.
And you can amend it to make it 5.
Okay. And you can amend it to make it 5 if you want, or 1, or. And do I have a second?
I had seconded.
Okay.
Technically, you don't have to pass the motion for a 1 year, because that's what the current approval is for. So you can withdraw and let it.
For a 1 year?
Yeah, the current that's been approved by this council is for 1 year.
this is only for discussion.
So
Motion and a second.
there's a motion on the table. So she could withdraw her motion and make a second motion, a different motion if she'd like to.
You can amend the motion that is on
She could amend the motion, but the motion that is on the table is for a 10-year lease.
The original, which was passed
Okay.
months ago,
Right.
was for 1 year. That's,
When it was originally presented to us, it was presented as a 1-year agreement. You folks agreed with that one at that time. I understood that one to be, that was what we would be voting on tonight.
But,
You said as presented, what's in the packet is 10.
okay,
So I'd like some clarification as the chair on what you mean by as presented.
So
when
this
you
is
said as presented, what's in the packet,
this is brought back to us because Mr. Kiphart and
so
Princess
I
Skinner
would like
feel
some
want more than 1
clarification
year.
as the chair
I would,
on
I
what
would.
you mean by as presented.
Motion,
Okay.
to approve, make a motion to approve Scanfield lease for 5-year period.
Okay, is the second
Okay,
going to,
I would,
okay? So there's a motion.
okay, is the second willing to,
I think the
Okay.
5-year lease would be
Okay.
adequate. for 1
so
year.
there's a motion and a second on the table for a 5-year lease. Discussion?
They have to deal with somebody else. And I don't want to give them a 10-year. You know. And that's my, you've done a wonderful job and somebody can come in and just cut through. You can't have that. So at least we have a 5-year.
And of course, Mr. Kiphart, this is now the second time we're redoing it. I don't anticipate we'll go with anybody else so long as you guys keep up your end of the bargain. So you can probably make 10-year plans, and you'll just have to come back in 5 years and, make sure that you're upholding your side of the bargain. At least that's the way I see it.
We're not shopping for other people.
Right.
Any other discussion?
We're not shopping for other people. Any other discussion?
There is
a clause that would allow us a 30-day out with notice. And I think for the long-term planning, 10 years sounds like a long time, it's really not. I've been on this council now for 6 years, and I only agreed to 1, so we're, so it goes faster than you think. And I think for long-term planning and longevity, that.
I would agree with Ms. Nixon. I believe that for planning, like anything else, once they started planning for the library here, if we told them you can only plan for 5 years and then maybe we'll let you continue, it would never have happened. I don't see anything wrong with the 10 years, with the idea that we do have that clause in the contract that would be something that we could exercise if there was not, things were not happening in the way they should have been, you can pull the plug. And I would like to see the 10 years.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
I wasn't
really.
Any other discussion? Motion is on the table for 5.
30 now.
30 day out.
So
So
whatever everybody else
everybody
wants
else
to
wants
do,
to do, I'd like to hear.
not
I'm not
personally.
her for anyway.
And Mayor Pro Tem, it sounds like there's favor for both 5 and 10. You maybe we should take a vote on one and see how it goes.
And the 5 is on the table. That's right, I'm trying to get everyone to give it from Renee.
Well, and the 5 is on the table. That's why I'm trying to get everyone, we haven't heard from Renee yet.
10 years does, yes, it's 10 years though. I just don't think that we need to, I mean, things can change either way. I just think the shorter term is better.
Okay?
Changes can happen.
If I may speak to that.
So
okay.
I'm gonna do a roll
Having
call
had the
vote.
opportunity to be part of that group, I know the mentality of the people that you're trying to deal with a lot of times as far as trying to recruit monies, be able to come up with the means of coming up with money. They look for a longer term investment. So I understand what they're looking for with the 10-year. I know the closer we got to the end of the 5 years, it was harder to try to get anybody to invest any money into it. And it begins to make it a struggle. And that's as far as that. We can still go ahead with the vote.
Is there a belief that we're going to?
Is there a belief that we're going to sell it?
I don't think that's the
Or
case,
it's going
that
to
people believe that,
here?
but they're
I-
dealing with a
I'm-
group that is trying to solicit monies for projects there. They need the security of knowing they're going to be around that long. Does that mean it's secure and they're going to be there? No, it just means they're intending to be there simply by their wanting to invest and get that period of time when the contract is there.
Other thoughts?
Any other
I
thoughts?
just remember how long it took us to get a hold of somebody, so even though we have that 30-day thing,
You know,
it took us a long time to have anybody respond to us this time, so. But, right.
That was one of my concerns as well, is the chair. We spent almost a year trying to get, and I understand that it's a volunteer organization, I understand it's leadership change, but again, that's part of the point of this. Your leadership changes because it's a volunteer organization. A 5-year contract, in the estimation of the chair, is better, but of course, we're gonna vote on it.
I have no explanation why it would take that
Certainly.
long to get hold of me, my phone numbers are even on dates. So I apologize if that happened. I didn't know till just this minute that it was. I didn't know. I'll make myself easier.
I think we were told that it wasn't you anymore.
You know, I heard that myself, but that's never been the case. It's been me from.
I think we
Now,
were
our
told
board is-
that it wasn't you anymore.
Got 2 original board members and the rest of.
And again, it's volunteer.
Yes.
We completely appreciate that and understand that.
And it's time consuming. I mean, definitely, because we're really landscapers for the most part. I mean, that's what we spend most of our time doing.
Sure.
And again, it's volunteer. We completely appreciate that and understand that.
And do roll call vote and we're
And-
going to 5-year contract. That's the most important. Any other discussion?
Sure.
All right, Ms. Atkinson.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion before I call, I'm gonna do a roll call vote and we're voting on a 5-year contract.
No,
That's the most on the table. Any other discussion?
Ms. Howard.
All right, Ms. Atkinson.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem
Hold on, I
votes
lost
yes.
my list.
So it's a 5-year contract.
Ms. Rose,
No.
Ms. Nixon,
No.
Ms. Howell.
Thank you for volunteer.
Ms. Race, and Mayor Pro Tem Rose votes yes. So it is a 5-year contract.
Item B, motion to approve.
Thank you. Thank you for all the volunteer work too.
For cost
Greatly appreciated. Moving on to action item B, motion to approve basketball court at Riggle Park for cost not to exceed $12,500. Any motion to approve a basketball court in Riggle Park?
Ongoing discussion we've had with the dog park in Riggle Park. First of all, I did spend about 3 hours of my time, off time, to go down to Menards and pick up that fencing material, so we do have most of it. And I would like to get started on that. I was going to ask for volunteers, not this weekend, but next weekend. the weekend of the 17th through the 19th. Obviously, it'd be very helpful to have Jerry there as well. So as I've taken some of you out there to show you, and I've put together some maps showing you, I think the easiest and best design for the dog park includes putting what's currently a single basketball net with a 24 by 24 concrete pad within the fencing of the dog park. Again, anybody who's been out there, it's in very poor shape. And it does get used occasionally. Now, I have seen some people out there shooting basketball. So I would like to replace it. And I did get some quotes here. So a 30 by 50 foot basketball court is what I consider a full half court for shooting basketball. Now, what we don't currently have on the 24 by 24 foot is a 3-point line. And so under the 30 by 50, you would have a 3-point line and you could play full half court basketball. The 17 by 17, which is what I thought the current one is, even though it's just a little bit smaller, is sufficiently sized for a free throw line, but not obviously a 3-point line. So and there is another possibility, and that is we could jog the fence around this area so we don't have to replace it. But it is in bad shape. I think it's a good time to upgrade. And the way the basketball net is currently situated, anytime you miss a basket, there would be the possibility that the ball would then bounce into the dog park area, which is not ideal. So, you know, we can get started on the dog park and not do this if council wants to consider other options, but here are 2 options for you to consider. I know that when I spoke with the mayor, he indicated that we should be cautious about spending money out of fund balance because of the potential for reduction in state revenue sharing that might occur next year. But on the other hand, I guess some of the philosophy, you don't stop living your lives. And this isn't, to me, an insignificant amount of money for what I think would be a good benefit to the community. One of the things I have always disliked about our park system is that Riggle Park is extremely underutilized, which is one of the reasons that we decided to put a dog park there. And now that I've seen people playing basketball there, I think if you put a half-court basketball in there, you might get 8 to 10 teenagers out there playing a pickup game. So it would be my preference to put in a half court, but I can understand the desire to have some cost savings there as well.
Okay, thoughts?
How much will the dog park actually cost us?
So as I put in my notes, I believe we set aside $10,000 for it, which was accidental. We only meant to do $5,000. I believe I have approximately $2,500 worth of fencing purchased. That does not include the cement, which would be another $300 or $400. And then obviously if we put this up with volunteer hours, we wouldn't have really any additional costs. So I'm gonna estimate about $3,000. I have an F-250 just chock full of gates and everything you could imagine.
Which means we would have $7,000 of the $10,000 that we had.
And so the finance director, who I'm sure is screaming at her screen right now, wanted me to indicate that any motion would need to approve of any overage out of fund balance specifically.
So if we went with the less than half court.
You theoretically could pay for that out of next, the current year budget, or we'd be awfully close. But I think it's appropriate to upgrade. 5,000 more bucks is not that big of a deal, especially when we've done so little upgrading of the parks over the last however long. No, so we've only proposed one. We could certainly put up another basket. Although, you know, the original plan for me was to put a full court basketball over by the southern end of the Skinner Field parking lot. But I think I brought that to council and it was estimated to be $30,000 or $35,000. So this is presenting us an opportunity to kind of do that, but do it on a smaller scale in a different location. I'd still like to put a nice basketball court over by Skinner Field. I'm sorry, Morley Park and Skinner Field. I think the Boy Scouts would get a lot of benefit from that. And I see people playing basketball there a lot more than I see them in Riggle. But I thought $35,000 was a huge thing to swallow at this point, especially in light of the fact that there are funding mechanisms that we can go after, grants especially, that I think might be better utilized for a large purchase like a full-size basketball court. And the reason I say that, so half court is, 8 to 10 guys going after one basket. You go past the 3-point line, it's kind of like it resets, A full court basketball, what we would do there is you'd have the 2 nets on either side. And then when we have the funding, or as part of the original plan, you would put 4 additional nets on either side. So now you would have really 2 half courts side by side. That's how a lot of cities do it. But that's a $35,000 to $40,000 purchase. Which park? Oh,
He's talking about over at Morley. At the end of like the parking lot area, by
I
Skinner
would like to
Field.
make a motion to approve a 30 by 50 basketball court in Regal Park for a cost not to exceed $12,500.
Any discussion? I'll do a roll call. I just said any discussion, and nobody said anything.
Part of the money from that's left over in the dog park, which would be roughly 6,000. 6 or 7,000.
Probably
So the
7.
balance will come out of.
is that understood?
The fund
by
balance.
motion maker?
It is understood by me that any balance that does not come out of monies from the dog park will come out of general fund.
Okay, other discussion? So we're saying we're gonna take about $5,000 out of the general fund to build this half-court basketball at Riggle Park. Yes? Okay, you were the one who, I just want to make sure, Ms. Powell, that you've, because you had the most questions.
Good investment for that little park. We just want to make sure we're not.
Okay, so your questions are answered on what this is doing and where it's going and,
People bring
yeah?
their kids.
My concern in the beginning of getting rid of the basketball part was the people who bring the kids and then the dad dump baskets. Yep, so are we, any other discussion? All right, then the motion that's on the table is the 30 by 50, which is a full half-court basketball court in an amount not to exceed $12,500. I'm going to do a roll
Yes.
call. Ms. Ashby? Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Nixon?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Ms. Race? And Mayor Pro Tem Conley votes yes. The motion carries. Would Ms. Falcon like a budget amendment at this time, or would she like us to wait to do that at a later time? No? Later? Later, thumbs up? Now? Okay, later, thumbs up. Good enough. Then we are moving on to, and by the way, I love that park with the creek. And does anyone know about the community building development team and the trail town and the trail that's supposed to be going that direction? Has anyone heard any updates on that?
But updates on that, but my favorite library director and I and some other rabble will be taking the North Country Trail route from the end of Cherry Street over to White Creek Avenue tomorrow morning. because I've never walked it.
Walking or biking?
Walking.
Oh, you want company?
You're more than welcome to, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Walking or biking?
It's from the
Oh,
west end
you
of
want
Cherry
company?
Street, along the trail towards White Creek Avenue. So, I've never done it. I think it's appropriate that we know what it looks like before we really get into it.
I've been walking the trail, I've been doing 2 or 3 miles a day.
Yeah, I've
I
been
was about to say, are
walking
you
the
doing 2 to
trail.
3 miles, or is
I've been
Baxter doing 2 to 3
miles
miles
a day
dragging
in
you
sprint
along?
sections every day with my dog.
You probably got more like 5. Circles around.
My Fitbit would say I'm doing 2 to 3 miles. He's probably got more like 5, which is circles around on his leash.
I think the detour was
So,
to go down Cherry
Okay.
and over to
There's
White
supposed to be
Creek.
a boardwalk that comes along the
It's
trail.
supposed to be, but it's like $10,000 a foot or something
Then I just was
ridiculous.
curious. where
okay,
they-
because there's
Yeah,
supposed to
so
be a
they've
boardwalk
changed
that
the
comes
route.
along the creek.
So that is officially the North Country Trail is Cherry Street.
That's, I just was curious where that was at.
There you go. I got the answer.
Okay,
Because we are just so fortunate to have that creek.
got it. That was my question. Thank you for being able to answer it.
And to have it-
Because we are just so fortunate to have that creek come through our town. I mean, I don't know if people realize just what, and to have it in that park, where
Madam Mayor,
that's
Pro Tem, I
that park.
should-
Again,
So
we're.
we are
we're
doing the walk
in
tomorrow.
spring.
What,
We're really
the
fortunate to have public
incipient to that
access to
was
that
the
creek,
fact that,
you know,
it had been approved of at the end of Cherry Street. And I think it was Carolee Cole, Donna, is that right? Who asked, if we could put together a map kind of showing how the North Country Trail goes through the city.
Okay,
I think some people
That's
might
cool.
not be too eager to just walk down Cherry Street not knowing what's going on and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't know that there was a sign on the gate that you have to open and close. So that's part of where we're going out there tomorrow.
sure.
Fred and Carolee granted access to go through.
That was my understanding, but I hadn't heard the. official
Wonderful.
piece of it
Okay.
when I-
There you go.
for the national park.
That was my understanding, but I hadn't heard the official piece of it back when I gave the speech for the national park, when we did the MOU. So, yeah, I do too. So, wonderful. All right, I'm glad we were able to clarify that. So moving on then, the motion to approve Fishback proposal for professional engineering services for the 2021 Main Street over Cedar Creek.
Madam Mayor
Bridge
Pro Tem,
Replacement
before we do that,
Project in
could
an
I
amount not to exceed
jump in here for a second? I have a text message from the
$159,700.
city clerk who indicates that Miss Kinsley Jeanne Johnson has arrived. She is 20.25 inches, weighs 6 pounds, 6 ounces. Both of us are healthy, doing well, lots of hair, none on top of her head.
Interesting.
Oh, well, tell her we cannot hardly wait for pictures.
Oh, well, tell her we cannot hardly wait for pictures, and that's wonderful. Congratulations. And doesn't everybody like to be able to be, have their entrance into the world announced to the city council meeting? So wonderful. Then, back to Fishback proposal for professional engineering services for the 2021 Main Street over Cedar Creek.
Not
Bridge.
really. So I did send an email, I think, out to
Any-
council.
is
This is
there
one of those things where we
information, Mr.
technically
Manager, that
could
we
put an
need on
RFP out for other
before
engineering,
entertaining a
but
motion?
this is our engineering firm. They've always treated us fairly. This is a fair price. I don't see it something that we really necessarily have to do. This is part of our 2021 Main
Yeah.
Street Bridge reconstruct. It's going to be a fairly complicated engineering project. Not- Yes, so, yes, so it's a capital improvement budget item.
And it's part of that
So
budget.
it's one of those things that we do have money
This is
set
the
aside
budget
for. I also said in that email that I think we're actually in pretty good shape, not only for this project, but also for the project in 2023 for Main Street Mill and Fill.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the action item C
Okay.
as.
Do I have a motion? I would second.
Any more discussion?
I was wondering how much money that we have actually. set
Any more
aside. We were
discussion?
Putting like $10,000 or $20,000 aside for that bridge. Quite a bit. We got a lot of money.
So
We were
this would
putting,
be something that Ms. Falcon would have to weigh in on. I don't have the exact numbers. We did talk about it the
year
other day.
for-
And it was something like 50 or 60,000 the first year and then like 40 the second year, you know. But one of the reasons that we're in such good shape was the mill and fill was actually going to be a reconstruct, which was going to cost like $2 million. And that project has a higher local buy-in than this project, the bridge one does.
Right.
So our cost for that was going to be significant. But that $2 million project then became something like a $500,000 or $600,000 project. So our buy-in is significantly lower now. So when we were putting 50, 40, et cetera aside, our lower cost means we're not going to probably have to bond for this. At least that was my understanding of the conversation.
I could be wrong. I want to say we had about 300,000.
Um,
That sound right, Ms. Falcon?
I could be wrong. I want to say we had about 300,000. Does that sound right, Ms. Falcon?
No.
300, I'm sorry, 300,000 for
No.
both projects already set aside?
For the entire, bridge and Main Street project.
No, as of June 30th, between general fund and major street fund, we have $210,000 set aside.
Okay, 210. Thank you.
Mhm.
So does that answer the question,
Yes, I knew, I just,
Ms. Powell?
happy we did that. when we did.
Right?
Right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, any other discussion?
So I'm going to take a roll call.
So I'm going to take a roll call.
All those, we'll do
All those, we'll do a individual roll call. Ms. Atkinson? Mr. Gross?
Yeah.
Ms. Nixon?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Ms. Race? And Mayor Pro Tem Conley votes yes.
Bill, did you have a motion and second on that? Thank you.
Can I make one comment as long as we're still in that section? One of the things that Sean mentioned when he was talking about the agreement, he mentioned it's basically a youth athletics facility. We've had a discussion on this before in the past when I was with him. It's there for everybody. There were adult groups that used to come in, football teams, so on and so forth, to use it. And so it is something they are maintaining, not only for the youth, it's for adults also, if they choose to use it. As I just said, I had one more comment.
Clarify, Mr. Gross,
As long as we're- as long as we're in this
or are we talking
So,
about the bridge?
It's just something I wanted to clarify.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
so
we were
people
talking
don't-
about the bridge.
If they're listening to this, they don't think we're only doing that for kids down there, or they're not only doing it for kids, they're maintaining it for everybody.
And while we're doing this, so I'll piggyback on that. Mr. Kippard, I saw you redid a lot of the asphalt or resealed it or something the other day.
Looks good.
Looks really nice. So I would agree, and this is one of the reasons I said, it's not like we're not gonna renew a lease in 5 years. You know, this is, I think, the long-term intent of the city, but I think this board especially feels that, you know, tying the hands of future boards, tying hands of future city managers is not always necessarily the correct thing to do. So yeah, I totally agree. You know, I run out there on a regular basis. And I always appreciate everything that you guys are doing out there. And frankly, I'm as long as we're doing social distancing, I'm happy to see it being utilized today and on Tuesday.
Those are the kind of things actually that are gonna keep people going during this time, because this is the place where you can go.
Those are the kind of things actually that are gonna keep people going during this time, because it is the place where you can social distance. Because that's the trail. I've been out walking on the trail because that's the thing I can do. That keeps me away from sick people. So yeah, so that is a huge service. Yes, thank you. Any other comments, questions about any of the action items before we move on?
So technically,
discussion item.
this special
Marijuana
land use
application
application is
form.
not
You
a
should have had
strictly
an
marijuana
opportunity
form.
to take a look
It's
at
something
this.
that was in desperate need of being updated. It was last updated in 2014 prior to my arrival here. It was poorly worded. I think I worded it mostly better. I was informed by a pesky planning commission member the other day that I needed to use a different word. I think the word was wishes. It was changed to determined or something to that effect. Okay. So other than that, I have made a few changes
Determined, yes,
since
I
the
heard
draft
that.
you're
I think I
seeing
know
right
who the
here.
planning commissioner is.
But I would be happy for any additional thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about anything you see.
Thoughts, discussion?
Just happy to move forward
Thoughts,
with this
discussion?
whole deal.
Me too. I actually thought it looked pretty good. Okay. Then with that, moving on to the Michigan fireworks law. And this is one of those where we had a set of ordinances regarding fireworks, regarding noise, and then the state came in and wiped those all away with some state laws. And then the state came back in and said, well, we're going to give the cities some abilities, municipalities, to make some restrictions on this after they had said we couldn't. So I think we're revisiting that to see that our ordinances do what we want them to do. So
That's pretty close to it. The main reason though, so last year we talked with Sergeant Probst about this because council did discuss this last year. And at that time, Sergeant Probst indicated that he didn't feel that we really had a fireworks issue here in the city. Now, of course, I don't live in the city. I don't know what it was like. I heard it was rambunctious. But the bigger problem I understand is that we don't want our deputies or our firefighters to have a misunderstanding of the law. And right now, because of the state of Michigan, thank you very much, we kind of have a hybrid legal system because the state doesn't know how to write their own bloody laws. So I would ask that we adopt the 2019 version, if for no other reason than that we're all on the same page. So I will bring that back to you unless I hear some vehement opposition.
And it's I think there's 14 days.
So under the,
And we can put a restriction on time of, is it midnight?
so under the old law, which is what we did adopt, it was from 8 in the morning until 2 a.m. of the next morning for the day before, the day of, and the day after every national holiday.
Right.
I don't know many people who set up fireworks on Martin Luther King Day, but that created, I think, a 39-day window where people could set up fireworks. Under the new law, it's like 14 or 15 days,
I believe.
but it's no longer Martin Luther King Day and Valentine's Day and all that. Now it's the weekends before Memorial and Labor Day. I think it's 29th of June until July 4th, and then the 5th if it's a weekend. It's a little easier to understand, I think.
Right. And if I had my way, I would put a restriction on that Monday and Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend. Because to me, that's just insane. We have, the state legislature said everybody has to go back to school on that day, but you can blow fireworks off until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, and then I don't know if that is permitted under the new law. I think it's only on Friday and Saturday of that weekend. Now, of course, it's hard to always track down somebody who's setting off a firework on a Monday or Tuesday. But this also changes it. So instead of 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. the next morning, it's 11 a.m. until 11:45 p.m.
That's what I was going to say. It's until like midnight, right? 11:45.
I have a question for you, if I could, please. My understanding on with that, the way the state wrote it up, they set it up only as you cannot regulate times for that outside of those hours that they have done. They have given them the right to do that.
Yeah.
So you can't restrict it. from being any tighter in that time, but you could allow it longer, which I don't want any longer.
Correct.
Which I don't have, but it was just, they're not saying you can't, if I understood it correctly, they're not saying you can't have fireworks.
Every illegal holiday. They're saying
Federal holidays, they're saying these are the holidays you can't take the rights, you can't take the rights for people, to not be able to people off fireworks on those days.
Correct.
Correct.
And my issue is with that, it's simply how they went about doing it. I think they worded it extremely poorly, especially in light of the fact that in 2011, 2013, they had worded it differently then. So now, for the cities who didn't adopt the 2019 ordinance, it just caused all sorts of problems. So
So I guess what I'm saying is we could expand it and allow other holidays if we chose to.
yes.
It's just
Yeah.
those holidays they mentioned, the ones you can't. Right.
Can't
Although
restrict.
I had no desire or intention to expand it. So,
That was what I.
yep, that's my understanding as well.
Yeah. And there has been a desire from citizens to
You
restrict,
try to tell that to the.
but we're not allowed. The Labor Day one is the one that bothers a lot of people. It is. I don't disagree. Any other discussion then on that? So we will move on to medical marijuana. This is the licensing structure.
Okay, so as we've discussed many, many times since November of 2018, it's in our best interest for the long term of the city that we only allow recreational marijuana businesses to operate in the city. And we have passed laws to that end. However, after having discussed this with some of our local citizens, I've been informed that they would like to open up a recreational marijuana store, but that they don't have the ability to do so due to state law. So state law, and of course, keep in mind that this was written by the medical marijuana industry. State law prohibits citizens from opening a recreational store unless they already have a medical marijuana store operator's license. So our local citizens have no desire to go to Detroit, Ann Arbor to open up a medical store than to turn around and bring their recreational store license here. They just want to open up a recreational store here. Unfortunately, the mechanism requires that they get a medical license to do so before they can get their recreational license.
Or that they wait.
Or that they wait. So the current waiting period is until November of 2021, which is 18 months or so from today. And so there's a lot of money to be had. I get it. I understand why they want to open 18 months early. And I think they don't want to be choked out of the market by the stores that have the ability to open now. Now, to complicate things even further, the state does have the ability and authority in November of this year to eliminate that rule and requirement. So fortunately for us, it's going to take us till about October, November to get through this ordinance if we want to pass it. So what I would recommend is that we continue to pursue possibly doing this if council wants to. I would then ask council to refer this to the planning commission for additional review. I'll work it out with the planning commission. They will make a recommendation back to this board. And then in October, November time, when we're ready, we can see what the state's going to do. If the state gets rid of that requirement, then nothing's required of us. We can either pass or not pass. If the state continues that requirement for another year until November of 21, the board at least would then be in a position this year to pass the medical law, which would then enable our local folks to get their medical and then recreational.
Would we implement the medical to sunset after a year?
So that would be my recommendation. That's what I would talk to the planning commission about. Because again, I believe, and I believe this board believes, that recreational is in the long-term interest of the city, not medical. But I think there's two strong arguments. The first one being the helping enable locals get into the market.
Okay.
But also, there are a number of medical marijuana patients out there
Yeah.
who, you know, maybe they're not quite ready to transition to the recreational marijuana. I don't see,
Because the medical
correct.
person can
And,
purchase
and as far as I can
marijuana.
tell, there really is no significant difference. There are some minor differences between how much you can possess between the two, but the strength of the marijuana, the type of the marijuana, those are not going to be different. So I don't see it as a long-term solution to have medical on the books. So what I'd recommend is maybe a 2-year ordinance, and that it would sunset after 2 years. But that's, we're getting into the weeds now. I'd recommend, yeah.
Okay, just clarifying.
When we visited the establishment, that they did say that the medical, some of the medical marijuana was stronger than the recreational.
I don't remember that.
That's what I remember.
Legally, it's not.
Everything I read on it indicates that the THC level is going to be more tightly regulated on the medical than it is on the recreational. So they maintained it at lower level versus the higher level. And that was my understanding on it and everything that I have read. It wasn't so much the high, it was the medicinal portion of it that they were looking for.
But when we toured, the day that I went, and I'm trying to remember who was with me, was the day that the facility got their recreational license in conjunction with their medical. And he said, we're selling the exact same product.
He did say that. He said that after a month, they could switch it over. But he also did say that there were some medical products that were higher in the THC and medical requirements that they could sell that to them, which they couldn't sell to recreational.
You know,
There's a discount. You buy it cheaper.
well, so that would be the tax implications of it. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like a fact finding mission for the planning commission.
I would disagree.
And he said it was 16% tax.
So, yeah,
That's gonna be an issue between medical, you're probably not gonna have to pay that much.
yep. So the way if you want to get into it, under the medical now, there are no taxes. Under recreational, it's 16%. It's 10% plus 6% sales tax. In Colorado, it's 39%. In the state of Washington, it's 47%.
And those taxes
Go to schools and cities, yeah.
city.
So that's,
Which was our original reason for saying we weren't gonna do medical, we were strictly gonna do recreational. So that we could, capture those taxes for the school and the city. And ultimately, we see medical going away, because if you can purchase it without a prescription, why wouldn't you?
and you do have to keep in mind that to get a medical license, not like you have to go to a doctor and pay a doctor, but it's, I think, $150 for the license each year. So the little amount that they may pay extra in taxes would be offset by that's one of the reasons it's gonna go away.
Okay, I understand now.
I would rather have experienced medical marijuana dealers come to town, because after we saw what a production that is, and the rules and regulations and the things that they have to do to set up that business, I don't want Joe Blow and Uncle Sam coming in and opening up marijuana.
Well, and this was my question, if a person was so committed to this, why have they not opened up a medical one?
And the answer, as I indicated before, is because people want to open up a business in their hometown. And so to do this previously, since the city still doesn't have a medical marijuana ordinance, they'd have to go to some other community that does, open a medical store there, and then now that we allow recreational, transfer their ability here. So I can understand that part of it, but I do agree that the citizens I've spoken to, I told them about this 18 months ago. This was no shock or surprise. So it is the city council, and the city doing a benefit to the local citizens. And the second side benefit would be to help transition medical users to the recreational product.
I guess I would like to hear the planning commission.
So without objection, I will take this to the planning commission and start working through the possibilities with them, and they can make a recommendation back to this board.
Feel okay with that? Kind of give me a straw poll here?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's what we will do then. So moving on to communications, community event calendar.
Unfortunately, you know, all those events that got approved back in February and March, haven't really happened.
Imagine that.
We are still waiting to hear, from the Red Flannel Festival. The last time I spoke with them, they indicated that they were, going to see how other festivals panned out throughout July. So I think they're waiting until mid-July. Yeah, so there are a couple of options on the table, that we've discussed with them. You know, the city will support them any which way. But as I've told Mr. Kiphart, I don't want to have a situation where we have COVID-19 Cedar Springs edition, where we have 4,000 of our citizens going to the hospital named after us. So it's going to be a very tough call for them and a tough call for us, because theoretically, we do have the ability to say that's a violation of the governor's orders, whatever, and just not allow it to go forward.
The Cherry Festival canceled, the Tulip Festival canceled. I mean, some really long-standing, very large festivals have said it's just not safe. So, but yes, of course, it's October's a ways away. All right, any other community event calendar issues? So the, Mr. Gebhardt resigning from the DDA.
Yeah, we'd like to thank him for his service. He's been on that board for as long as I've been here. He was always good for having a good long-term perspective of what's been going on in the community. I understand he simply became too busy at work, which is good. We're happy to hear that. We are shaking the trees, trying to find other options for board members. We do have a couple of people we're looking at. But that board's been putting in a lot of work. It's been great to have them funded. So, you know, things are turning out good with the DDA.
And moving on then to 129 West Maple Street, Trout Unlimited, the Mayfly Station Center.
Yep, so this is something I think only Ms. Powell might ever stumble upon. It's just, it's a little thing that they kind of stick in the creek. It would be located that way. That helps monitor some things about the creek. Solar powered, I think it uploads, you know, data via cellular network. It shouldn't cause any problems for us ever. So I approved it already. Hopefully that was okay.
Great.
And that creek is quite special in that it's a cold water creek, which is apparently becoming more and more rare. So that's part of why it's important that we preserve it. Anything you would like to add about it, Ms. Powell?
That's one of the reasons we have to have all these ponds, cool the water before it goes in.
It's registered.
Yeah, wonderful thing. Better than one of those splash pads any day. You go by the creek and the kids are just having a ball.
Well, in theory, eventually we can have both. But yes, the creek is just phenomenal. Then moving on to the fire station timeline and vendor
So
list.
I believe in there it says substantial completion of approximately April 1st of 2021. So we're hoping to hit that mark. Marty, you got anything to add to that? Marty picked out paint chips and carpeting samples, and he's been doing all sorts of things.
Woohoo!
You and me both.
Their schedule also
So they're technically moving right along. They did have an issue with fracking and groundwater stuff. Beginning of the week, we saw it, and they didn't have it. I can attest to the fact that it was up and running, things are full steam ahead as far as I can tell.
Excellent. Anything else?
That's it, this point, there's a lot of dirt over there.
Yeah, I keep
Some black, but a lot of dirt.
I keep walking my dog by there and it's pretty fabulous.
You'll have to wait for a while for the dog park.
I noticed, but there's lots of interesting sidewalk and fencing there to walk my dog around. All right, anything else said on the fire station? We'll move on to the city impact.
So, I put this on here because this was a collaboration between, both the Cedar Springs Mobile Estates, the Dollar General Store, the city impact with Mr. Heisinger, and also the code enforcement officer. There's a cut through there between the mobile home park and the dollar store. And, the citizens have been placing, what do you call them, those pallets, the wooden pallets. Unfortunately, those wooden pallets are not very tall. The water didn't really get through there because that's kind of a drainage ditch area through there. And so there was lots of garbage accumulating. So the code enforcement officer worked it out to have that new bridge installed. I haven't walked over it yet, but it looks great. It should meet all of our requirements. And I gave them approval to cross over the city's bridge there, the drainage ditch. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was a great collaborative effort.
Wonderful. And then the MERS annual actuarial.
Oh, I can hear Darla from here. So, as you guys know, MERS is how we fund all the retirees, for the city employees. And despite doing everything right, and we're not the only ones, every city is like this, despite doing everything right, they keep downgrading us. So, MERS comes every year and tells us, if you put X amount of dollars in, you'll be good for next year. Well, I think last year we were funded at 81 or 82%. We're down to 78 this year, despite doing everything that we were requested of.
So we need to up that?
No, I need to throttle somebody really sometimes. Because, when these MERS folks come and, they show us these numbers, I'm a pragmatic person. I say, well, this is at an estimated 7%, growth. When was the last time we had 7% growth in our, economy? So inevitably it'll come in at 4.5 or something. Well, even though we gave them all the money that they asked for, we got downgraded to 78% funded. So we're doing nothing wrong. I think we're doing an excellent job with MERS and keeping all our retirees paid for. It's frustrating dealing with them sometimes. And I don't know if Darla wants to jump in on that, but, yeah, okay.
Okay. We will assume that if there is a further complication, it'll be brought back to
Sure.
us. Then moving on to the meeting is moved to the library.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Of course, I always try to put as many notices out there for people because I don't ever want to be accused of Open Meeting Act violations or anything like that. So I appreciate everybody accommodating us. Hopefully even though it's warm in here, having the cross breeze helps with the COVID-19, although I'm sure all of you are clean.
Does this work for folks? Our city council chambers are really difficult to social distance in. It feels virtually impossible, where this feels like we have much more ability to be socially distant.
Should we expect?
That was gonna be my next
Sure.
piece of this.
So right now, the governor's EO allows public meetings to be held virtually until July 30. Our next meeting's not until August, obviously. I don't know where we're gonna be at, the way the Grand Rapids area is going. I suspect she'll renew that again for another month. Now, we were discussing before the meeting, The planning commission might be held entirely virtually. But, you know, we may want to shift back to virtual for this meeting. I wanted to do this in anticipation of potentially being required to be public next time, so that we can kind of get our feet wet, see how things worked out. But I'll play it by ear. You guys know I'm trying to keep everybody safe. And
What I would advocate is, until there is a solution to this virus, if you're not meeting virtually, then you should be meeting here.
okay, and obviously I'll keep in touch with both the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem about how to proceed.
But that's, and the mayor has some high risk things also, and
And so does the city manager.
so, there you go. So and in general, if someone wants to come in and speak to us, this is just better as far as ventilation, it's better as far as spacing. Yes, they can also, zoom in to ask a question. They can virtually ask a question. And we will continue, and we've had people doing that. And we will continue to do that and make that available to the public, even if we are showing up, as long as we're legally allowed.
Well, and I think everybody here knows it's our desire and intent to have public participate. I'm sometimes a little disappointed that we don't have more members of the public participate. You know, we held public hearings regarding marijuana and we had 1 or 2 people from the city show up, which I thought was very disappointing. So yeah, we want people to come. We want people to interact, you know, and even if you can't come, send me an email. I forward that stuff onto the city council members. All of your email addresses are on the city's website. It's a city of 3,500 plus people. It's small enough that they should know who their representatives are, and they're welcome to come to our meetings.
They're also welcome if they're not, if they don't feel safe to come publicly, to come virtually. And we're trying to make that. And I think if you want to come publicly, this is a safer environment.
Yeah, that actually brings up a good point. Thank you, Mayor, Madam Pro Tem. And that is, even though the governor may require open meeting acts to be done in person, I don't think there's any requirement that we stop virtually allowing citizens to come to the meeting.
Okay.
Now, it does cost us 20 or 30 bucks a month for this platform. It might be a good investment for that purpose. Today, we had nobody except staff appear virtually. But I guess that would be up to the council's prerogative.
I would even be willing in the future to have staff come in virtually for the piece that we need to talk to them about.
Which that's what they're doing, and I guess we'll get to them here in a minute.
Well, no, but I'm saying a year from now, when it's not necessary because we're trying to keep people from getting sick, when it's just a matter of that's a really long day for a part of a meeting of which you have 15 minutes.
Sure.
And I think that would be a wonderful thing to be able to let them do.
And it's long been this council's direction to be more open, more inclusive, and to be more accessible. And I think that allowing the Zoom platform is in that same vein.
Right.
We have the YouTube, we upgraded the audio in chambers, and if someone needs to Zoom in because of whatever reason, I feel that allowing them to do so is the right thing to do. And $20 to $30 a month is really not very much at all.
To be able to allow more communication accessibility.
If it's being utilized. If we're giving no one, if we're giving no one that's taking this up on the option, then eventually it becomes, you know. Right.
Yeah. And this is the first month we haven't had someone. I mean, am I correct?
Yeah, I believe we've had at least 1 or 2 people at every other meeting. Of course, we're not talking really about marijuana at this point, so.
Well, but we also had someone who talked about fencing and someone who had a comment about dog parks and.
Sure, yeah.
So it's been utilized. So that would be where, any other question, comment, concerns about being at the library or virtual? Then we're on to department reports. Oh, well, no, department reports. City manager.
Yeah, it's been a tough couple weeks, trying to get everything lined up, of course, doing so without my city clerk in the office. Having 2 meetings this week, and there's lots going on in the city. Hopefully you guys have been reading all my emails. I've sent out a couple of fairly important emails in the last couple of days. And that's stuff that'll be coming to you in the future. And I do have one additional thing. Hopefully she won't kill me for it. But how about that? Do you guys get that on your screen?
Oh, how wonderful.
So cute.
So we have an addition to our family here in city of Cedar Springs.
That's so sweet.
Our new little red flannel Red Hawk. Right?
No.
I would chip in to buy those.
So, okay, I've done that now and I don't know how to get out of it, so.
It's 7-1.
So I guess you have to stare at that while you guys finish up.
Gosh, wasn't that terrible? So moving on to the Department of Public Works. Does Mr. LaRose have anything for us?
Okay, let's see here.
Mr. LaRose, you got anything for us? I'm gonna go with no.
I did ask him to unmute.
There he is.
No, I don't, I'm good, thank you.
Got anything for us?
No, I'm good, thank you.
I'm sorry, Bill, could you repeat that? We all, I think, had our computers muted.
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
There's a lot of effort for that. Thank you, Bill.
Then the police
I
department.
do have a question.
Oh,
I'm looking at the tower, the water tower, the cleaning and disinfecting. That's internal cleaning, right?
Yes, it's internal. They actually put people inside the tower, inspect the coating inside of it, make sure everything's good.
Bill, I think the question is, will there be any external cleaning and or painting of?
Terrible. I look at it every day. It's just scary.
Oh, I was muted.
I can hear you, Mike.
Bill, the question is whether there'll be any external or painting, external cleaning or painting of the water tower.
You know, Mike, that's a good question because I had a conversation about cleaning the outside of the tower because it's getting kind of black on the underside and stuff. There is quite a cost associated with it. I don't have the numbers yet. I'm going to look into it. And if it's reasonable, we'll get it done if we can afford it. You know, it represents our city's water department, and what it looks like reflects on us. So we want it to look good.
I agree.
Just so you know, I will not be climbing up there to power wash the underside of the water
I'll
tower.
help you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
when did we have that painted, bro?
It was 2 city managers.
It was 2 city
Yeah.
managers ago, now that you say it.
Yeah, and I wanna say it was like.
And it looked beautiful. It's just
Yeah,
like.
and I wanna say it was like
now,
200,
so.
I wanna say it was like $250,000, $300,000 to paint it.
Well, you guys just gave
Yeah,
Bill a
there was
first
a special
qualification of
thing with
$250,000.
Just cleaning it would be, I think, suffice.
It was a lot of money.
Mike,
Yeah,
if
no,
I'm
this
ready
was
to
the whole like
jump in here in a
sandblasting,
minute.
and it's when they put the red flannel, we had the red
It
flannel.
was,
come to the
it was
removal.
recommended at the time
Putting it on
also not
there
to use
and-
red paint on it, because the red paint faded so much. Remember when they used to have the teardrop
drips,
design on the
like a
top and
drip or
bottom?
something.
And it was the now
I don't
current
remember
mayor
that.
who suggested they not use red on it, and then we used some red on it anyway, in the form of some advertising, so.
It looks fine. It's just dirty underneath. It's the white that's really making it look. No, it's just dirty.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's faded.
All right, so then moving on to the,
Oh,
fire department.
all right, so then moving on to the, department,
So when.
or police department, I'm sorry, police department.
Sergeant Probst is not with us, he's appreciated Sergeant Probst is on vacation time, and with him for any.
Good for him.
As Ms. Clark indicated.
Good for him.
We had a situation here indicated we did that yesterday. And we did have finance in the city, we did have finance in the city, no issues that I can see. We did have some, loud fireworks and a lot of here, and a lot of crime in the city's been primarily, low and steady,
That's good to hear. Then moving on to the fire department, Marty, anything to add?
Nothing additional, I want to answer any questions you might have.
I was surprised there wasn't any fires from 4th of July. In our development, it was like, everywhere. Yeah, so that was good. Good for all.
And then city clerk? Anything?
City clerk is busy right now.
For
But
Yeah.
Chandel is here. Chandel is our deputy clerk. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns for her.
Anything you wanna add? Anything people should know? They can get a ballot application if they want to vote absentee. And we have no reason absentee voting, and that's a recent law that was passed in the state of Michigan, nothing to do even with COVID. So. Thank you, because making sure that everybody votes is like probably the most important thing we do, next to making the water safe to drink and the fire department show up. So, thank you for that. Then moving on to the finance director, woohoo! I got a smile.
I have nothing to add. If anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to answer any questions.
I'm good. Anybody else got anything?
No.
Then moving on to code enforcement.
She continues to do a good job. Sometimes we're stuck in a position where we have a law that inhibits and prevents somebody from doing something that they want to do. It's been my practice to take those that I think have merit back to the planning commission of the city council and ask for input. A couple of the things that the planning commission and the city council are going to have to work on soon would be fences. Our ordinance is quite old and not very helpful. Parking in front lawns, and non-conforming uses. So those are a couple things that are coming. Those are things that the code enforcement officers helped me with. And, people continue to say to me that the city's looking nicer every day. And that's in large part due to code enforcement officers' efforts.
I'm surprised when I drive around and see how people are going, how many people still don't have their house numbers. I mean, the simplest thing. It's just crazy.
If you have any houses you'd like to point out to me, we would be happy to
List them out
investigate
right
those.
now. Call them out.
And frankly, honestly, at this point, I might ticket them because we're now almost like a year and a half later, 2 years later. Yeah, and we don't. We try to give everybody notice in an attempt to fix. But you're right, they should have house numbers at this point.
Yep. It is.
And it's really a safety thing. And I enjoyed like shopping for a pretty sign with our house number on it. So, but you can, buy stick-on 2-inch letters, 4-inch letters, whatever the thing is. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that is the thing. Please get the house numbers on your house. Then moving on to building inspection. And then boards and commissions, minutes from the library board, anything you want us to know, Donna? Summer reading program is happening, it's happening virtually, sign on.
Seeing what's allowed out there. We haven't been very, we haven't really pushed to open up because social distancing and masks and everything is so complicated. And, you know, I know that, it is contact, all the, so sometimes they are living in their buildings, but they're not allowed to send people in with the social distancing and masks. And so it's just a hard thing, I know, but the manager about it, it was really, you know, I really keep contact with the city manager and legal and, you know, help, anyway, we're partners, all of us. So, you know, we just want more people in the library, we want people to come back. We have a sign, we're on Facebook, all over Facebook.
So people can come to the library and check out books now. By appointment?
But we're wide open.
Okay.
People can come in. They just come and ring a little doorbell, but it's open so people can social distance when they came in. If we had
Wonderful.
A lot of people, they could bring it marked to, that's quite a big area, they could stand 6 feet away from each other, ring the doorbell, you come and open it, they're right inside, there's a table with the pump for doing your hands.
Can people do curbside if they want? Can people check out books and have them, like, pick them up?
Oh, we have curbside, we started with curbside, yeah.
Okay, so curbside is still available.
We'll continue that forever. If people want that service, they can, and some people aren't comfortable with coming in. So they will always be able to do that.
Wonderful. Yep, so people should know that. We'll put that out on YouTube.
We're pretty much everywhere.
Libraries are keeping us going.
Yeah, I know, I have weekly meetings with all the libraries in the state.
I'm sure you do. We just need to get that out to our citizens so that lots of them know.
Yeah, I should write all that about that.
And
Hours the same. The hours are the same, yeah.
because I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have.
And I'm a library person. So, moving on then to council comments. Ms. Atchison.
I just want to make sure, once again, that we thank Friends Scannerfield for what you do over there. I had a daughter all through school that did cheerleading, and so that was involved in like football and everything. And I know that I got so many comments from other schools how wonderful it was there and how great you guys did. So I don't want anybody to think that we don't appreciate that at all. So thank you very much. Thanks all the staff, and congratulations, Rebecca, and thank you, Mike, for what you guys are doing. And that's it.
And Mr. Gross.
Say challenging times create creativity and ways to get around it. If we work together, we can get through this. And I do appreciate everything that all of you and the city manager and all of the staff, fire department, everything do. Let's just keep the faith and keep on going.
Ms. Nixon.
Well, I'm grateful that we were able to have this space where we can have our meeting and make it as safe as it can be. So thank you, City Manager, for setting that up for us, and thank you, Donna, for hosting. I guess we'll continue to do what the whole country is doing and play it by ear going forward. So thank you.
Ms. Powell.
I'm just glad to see you're all healthy and here and dealing with this whole situation. And it's just sometimes it just freaks me out. I feel like I'm in a movie or something. And gotta carry on and, what we gotta do, try to keep each other healthy, and our families healthy, and thank you for being here. And thank you, vice president, for working on things that you're working on. I really appreciate it.
And Ms. Race?
I think that the city manager has like 4 jobs right now, around that. I don't think he sleeps.
Plus decontamination, hazmat protection.
So I know that he's working very hard and we appreciate that. Yes, I think that this has really kind of brought a lot of families together. And I think it's important that we focus on the dog park, like the dog park and this basketball court, because I really feel like it's bringing families out doing things together, walking, rollerblading, whatever it may be. And we have a beautiful city for that. So we're lucky to have that. I'm just glad everyone's doing okay and we're on this roller coaster together. So I'm not good on roller coasters, just so you know. But that's all I got.
No hands up.
Right. That's all I got.
All right, well, with that, I, again, thank you for making this safer by moving this to the library. I am really thankful for everyone that is wearing a mask here and taking this seriously and understanding, and accommodating me, putting me near the door and ventilation and so on. And thank you for continuing to make the city happen, continuing to make the library happen, the fire department, Skinner Field, all of these things, even while we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm really grateful to live in a place where we can go walk on the trail safely and go to the creek and bring a basketball and shoot some baskets and still be safe. And not everybody has all of these wonderful things, so I'm really grateful for that. And with that, we're adjourned.